So this is the first in a series called System Pigs. And it's going to be about the different categories of people who support this corrupt, warmongering, disgusting system that we have in the West. This system that we all recognize intuitively, left, right, or center, that it is corrupt, it is self-serving, and it certainly does not have the best interests of the people at heart. On the contrary, it just wants to perpetuate itself. And it's toying with the idea of nuclear war at this time. And so it pays for us to understand this system that we've got going in the West and the system pigs who are supporting it. Now, this first episode of the series is going to be about journalists. The journalists who are system pigs, all of them, all the journalists in the mainstream, by definition, are system pigs. They are corrupt. They are just nasty pieces of work, every single one of them. And what's important to understand is why. Why? You see, as I'll explain here in this video, there are very clear reasons as to why these journalists are the way that they are. The reason that they lie constantly, why they are so destructive, why they constantly try to tear down other people. There are reasons for this behavior. And if you don't understand the reasons, then for you, it's just weird. It's just arbitrary. It's like, why are all these journalists like this? Why do they lie all the time about everything? And why do they constantly try to pull down others? Because they're trying to pull down me, by the way. A little, heads up as to what this episode is going to be about. The hit piece is coming my way from the Daily Beast. Yeah, I already got contacted by the system pig who's authoring this hit piece. And so I figured that it would be smart to do this video so as to explain to you why the journalists are the way that they are. And it's very simple. It's all about money. Because you see, back before the internet, before social media, news organizations earned money by way of advertising. Advertising and also subscription. And so you were the New Yorker, you were CBS News, you were whatever, and you made money by the advertising that was paid. And you produced the content that went out to people, and the content was periodically interrupted by commercials on TV or cable. Or, on the pages of your magazine or newspaper, there were advertisements, right? That's how it worked. That was the traditional model. But what happened was that, see, with the advent of social media, for all intents and purposes, stole the advertising revenue from these news organizations. Because, you see, people would read these articles and copy the link to the article and post it on their social media feed. And so people would see the article, but the advertisement on that social media platform, well, that advertising revenue went to Facebook, went to Google. It didn't go to the Washington Post or the New York Times or CBS News that had made that bit of content. That's how social media companies cut out the advertisement revenue from the news organizations. And so they slowly started to go broke. And we've seen this. There used to be local newspapers all across the United States and Western Europe, and they've all practically vanished. There are only like these big newspapers and these big news magazines and these big television channels reporting the news. But you see, they are all poor. And so like what happened to the Washington Post is it's almost like the template for what happened to a lot of these news organizations. The Washington Post was going broke. And so the Graham family, which owned the Washington Post for a number of years, decided to sell it. And they sold it to Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, as you know, is the owner of Amazon. And Amazon is a very large corporation that does a lot of business with the government. People don't know this. People think that Amazon just sells stuff. No. Amazon has a business department or a business unit called Amazon Web Services. And it sells a lot of services to the government. And this AWS accounts for a huge proportion of Amazon's yearly profits. It's a big deal, even though most people are not aware of it. But see, AWS, Amazon Web Services, sells its products to the government. And they have to have a good relationship with the government. And so what does Jeff Bezos do? He buys the Washington Post. And he all of a sudden uses the Washington Post as a megaphone for what the government wants to put out there into the public sphere. And much more importantly, the Washington Post does not report on things that the influential people in government, in politics, don't want you to know about. The Washington Post didn't say a thing about Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh no. And anything they might have said, they would say automatically that it's Russian propaganda and disinformation. And no, it was true. And the New York Times has finally admitted as such that it was true. But anyway, see, that's the game that the Washington Post is playing. The Washington Post is basically a mouthpiece for the government, and it is subsidized by Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos is happy to do this because he's a very rich man. The money that he spends to support the Washington Post is fairly minimal when compared to the scope of his fortune. And of course, it helps him very much with his relationship with the government and government bureaucrats and government functionaries. And so he keeps them happy, and they keep him happy by throwing business his way. You see how it works? The news organization is like the lubricant of this relationship. And this is just the Washington Post. Different models exist for various news programs, but in the end, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about news organizations, journalistic enterprises being used as propaganda for government, for other oligarchs, all of these people, what's his name, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and all these people, they go on TV and try to pretend to be your friend. They're not your friend. They want money from you. Yeah. And they use the press, the mainstream media, the New York Times, the Washington Post, PBS, CBS, ABC, all of these news organizations. They use them to propagandize you. And it's in their financial best interest. Now, in such an environment, you're a journalist, say. Now, you went to journalism school. You got your Bachelor of Arts in some university, right? And you had to go into maybe, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of debt. And then you decided that you wanted to be a journalist. And so you figured that you had to go to 2 years of journalism school in order to get the accreditation to apply for a job at a prestigious mainstream media outlet, right? So you did 2 years of journalism school, and that added another $50,000 worth of debt. So you're out there, just graduated with your BA and your MA in journalism with $100,000 worth of debt, maybe as much as $150,000, maybe $200,000 worth of debt. And you go to work for one of these mainstream media outlets, right? And so what happens? They tell you to write about whatever, yeah, but they want you to slant it a certain way. Your editor says, I want you to slant this like X. Like, for instance, the laptop computer. I want you to slant it like it's Russian disinformation and propaganda. And so you're fresh out of journalism school and you start digging into this Hunter Biden laptop story, and you dig in and you discover, hey, wait. It's not Russian disinformation. This is real. The guy who founded has like an actual store, and he's been there for years, and he actually genuinely did find this, and the FBI did come and take it away, but he did keep a copy. And you start to realize the truth. And you go to your editor and you tell him, well, no, it's not, Russian disinformation or propaganda. Hunter Biden, actually, this is Hunter Biden's laptop. And all these videos and messages of him doing cocaine off the ass of hookers and potentially sleeping with his nieces and doing all kinds of disgusting stuff. Not to mention the fact that he says in his emails on that laptop that 10% of everything he gets kicked back upstairs to the big guy. It's all true, you tell your editor. And what does your editor say? Well, your editor says, well, the publisher who talks to the owner told me to push this story as Russian disinformation. So you, Mr. Journalist Man, with $150,000 worth of debt, you're going to write a story saying that it's Russian disinformation. And what do? Well, very simple. If you have a conscience, and most of us do, if you have a conscience, you realize I can't work for this organization. And maybe you do it like 2, 3, 4 times, maybe a lot more times. Maybe you figure, well, maybe they know better. But after a while, you realize the truth. You realize that you're not working for a news organization, you're working for a propaganda outlet. And so if you are an honest man, and like I said, most people are, you decide to quit. You decide to quit, that you're going to go into some other line of work. Maybe you'll go into public relations. Maybe you'll go into something completely different. Maybe you'll learn to code. Who knows what you'll do, but you decide, I want to be able to sleep at night with a clear conscience. I want to be able to say to myself, yeah, I looked for the truth. I looked for the truth as hard as I could, and I showed it, and I wrote about it, and I was a good person. I mean, you want to be able to do that with your life, right? And so you quit the job at the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Daily Beast or whatever, right? But others don't. I mean, who doesn't quit in such a corrupted environment? Corrupt people, right? Right, of course. You're an honest person. You decide to quit and you'll figure out how you're going to handle your student debt and how to survive in New York City and whatnot. But the people who stay in the Washington Post and the New York Times and all these mainstream news outlets, they have no such scruples as you. The system is practically designed to advance the careers of the people who are most corrupt, most unwilling to look at the truth, the ones most willing to toe the editorial line of the narrative, the most willing to become system pigs. Their snouts in the trough of money, and all they have to do is give up their conscience and just spout some lies in order to please their editors and thereby please the publisher and please the owner, the oligarch, who is subsidizing this propaganda operation for his benefit and the benefit of the American government, to have this flow of money back and forth between the oligarch and the government. You see what's going on? It's designed to advance the careers of the corrupt, of the low, of the people with no morals, of the people who cannot recognize what is good and decent and wholesome and that which is evil and corrupt. And that's why everybody who works at the mainstream media, by definition, is a piece of shit. By definition, he's a system pig. Now, what about alternative media? Like what I'm doing now with you, right? I'm alt media. Now, why am I so much better? Well, very simply, because you see, the people who support me, I don't have a boss. I don't. I have people on Patreon who throws me some money, $5 a month if they like my content. And I have Google advertisement because, these videos that appear on Google, little ads will pop up and I'll get 70% of the money of those ads, right? And so I can say whatever I want. I can say the truth. And the alt media, guys like me, guys like the Duran, guys like Styx Hexenhammer, all these people who are doing like commentary or analysis or reporting as to the news, who are independent, we depend on our audience. We have to please them. And the way we please them is by telling them the truth. See, and here's the beauty of it. See, if I start going down a particular path of interest, say that I'm interested in one subject over here, and then I slowly start drifting to another subject over there, well, I'm going to lose some of the people who are supporting me. It's true. Some people on Patreon, for instance, some of my subscribers, long-term subscribers, will say, I'm bored with this stuff. I don't want to hear about, what's going on in Ukraine or whatever. I'm going to quit my membership. And I'm sad to see them go, but I don't really mind, because as I change and lose a couple of audience members, a couple of other audience members say, hey, when you used to be Coach Red Pill, that was really boring, but this stuff that you're talking about, Ukraine and geopolitics, that was real fascinating, and so I want to sign up. So you see how it works. I have freedom. I can change and go and follow my interests. I don't have to worry about towing anybody's line, because I'm not spewing propaganda. I'm just saying what I truly believe. I see it. I look into it. Sometimes I make mistakes. Yesterday, for instance, I passed along a link that I thought was genuine. It turned out to be just nonsense. And I retracted it immediately. I apologized, and, no harm, no foul. Everybody was fine with it, because it happens. Of course, you're human and you make mistakes. I own up to my mistakes, and that's that. And people forget about it, not because they forget about my mistakes, but because I own up to them. And as I own up to them and ask people to forgive me for my mistake, they say, sure, no problem. We're all human. And we move on. Because I'm not trying to spew propaganda. I'm trying to understand the world. And in my process of trying to understand the world, you, my audience, are following along. And I'm speaking in the first person in this case, but this pretty much goes for all content creators. We just want to figure out what the hell's going on. And you all, our audience, are along for the ride. And we don't want to fool you, because we've got nothing else. I mean, the only thing I can pitch you is my Patreon subscription. That's the only thing I can pitch you. I don't have any other agenda. I don't have a boss. I don't have to please anybody. So I don't have an agenda. I don't care if this guy over here wins or that guy over there wins. I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and I tell you. And that's why independent media is so powerful. And that's why so many people gravitate to independent media, audience members, because they want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear propaganda. Because a lot of times, some of these propaganda outlets in the mainstream media, they might be actually saying things that are objectively true, but there's that patina of bullshit, and people sense it. And they go like, ew, I don't want it, okay? And they pull away. That's why CNN is going down the tubes, because people know that it's just baloney. Anyway, so, right, the Daily Beast. A contributor for the Daily Beast, sent me an email, long email yesterday. And basically, he wants to do a hit piece on me. I would have respected him more if he just said, hey, dude, I'm going to do a hit piece on you for the Daily Beast. I would have respected him more. But instead, he sent me like this 6-page email, which I posted in full on my Telegram channel and also on my Twitter. So go check him out. He posted this and with some questions, but it was so obvious a slant. He's just trying to, smear me. He wants to torpedo me. He wants to get me deplatformed. And I can tell you why. He probably doesn't even realize why, but I can tell you. Because you see, the guy is completely corrupt. Corrupt in the way that I explained before. In that he was selected for the fact that he has no moral standards. And no standards of truth or honesty. And you look at his CV of the previous articles that he was writing, and they were all mocking anti-vaxxers, mocking them relentlessly, and saying that they're conspiracy theorists, that they're wrong, they're bad, they're evil, and blah, 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 typical crap, right? And now, of course, when we're starting to see excess deaths, now, of course, when we're starting to see the myocarditis that cannot be hidden anymore, now that everybody's realizing, oh yeah, it doesn't make sense with all these young people having heart attacks when they're like 17 years old, now people are starting to realize maybe the anti-vaxxers were right. And he's pulling away from that, okay? Probably his editors are coming on and saying, don't do that anymore because we're getting into trouble, man. Go someplace else, find out about, oh yeah, Putin's stooges. Yeah, Putin's stooges. Everybody who says that Russia is winning, let's go and get those guys because they're evil. They're evil because they're pointing out the truth. See, the Russians are winning this war here in Ukraine, and I've said so. I said so from the very beginning, okay? It was obvious. I mean, come on. See, if like a 12-year-old boy, skinny as a reed, gets into the ring with Mike Tyson in his prime, who do you think is going to win that boxing match? I'll give you 3 guesses, but you're only going to need 1. I mean, come on, right? It was obvious from the get-go that the Russians were going to win one way or the other. Even if they'd had completely incompetent leadership and completely incompetent soldiers, just numerically, they were going to win, okay? And they don't have incompetent leadership or incompetent soldiers, okay? So anyway, they're winning. It's very clear. I'm here in Kharkov. I can tell you that they're winning. And this guy was basically sending me questions that implied that I was a Putin stooge and that I was just, just an evil guy. And he was trying to get me to answer questions about my audience and trying to figure out a way to get me in trouble with Patreon and YouTube because his aim is to deplatform me. And he wants to deplatform me because, number one, it'll make him look good with his peers that he got a scalp, of the evil, I don't know what they're calling us now. I don't think they're calling us alt-right, Putin apologists, I guess is the new term of art. Yeah, wanting to get the scalp of a Putin apologist, right? Also, create content for his propaganda outlet, which is what the Daily Beast is. And also, there is a personal element to him of resentment, which is inevitable. Because, of course, the guy has to toe an editorial line. He doesn't have my freedom. I can write about whatever I want, speak my mind about whatever topic I want. This video I'm doing now, I thought about it, 20 minutes before I started recording it. Nobody tells me what to do. I can do whatever the hell I want. I have real freedom. And he doesn't. He's a slave. He's a slave to his paycheck so that he can pay the loans that he took out, so that he can make the payments on his credit card and other loans to afford the lifestyle that he thinks is his, but is not actually his. Because if the bank owns it, it's not really yours. Now, is it? So he's a slave to his paycheck. He's a slave to his editor. He has to do whatever his editor says. And that, of course, makes him resentful. And so he puts that resentment onto me, thinking that it's my fault. It's not my fault. I didn't force him to live the life that he's living. He made those choices all on his own. And he's stuck with those choices. And of course, he can't hate his boss, because if he hates the boss, eventually he'll just blow up at the boss. So he puts that hatred on me and decides to do a hit piece on me. And it's going to go on the Daily Beast, and they're going to say all kinds of things. They're going to look for anything that I might have done, things that I might have done or said 30 years ago. Everything. I don't care. See, I'm in a war zone, and I have a lot of worries on my mind just being here, And so I don't really care what these system pigs are going to say about me. And that's the thing. That's their power. They figure that if you care about what they say, they can hurt you. But in my own case, personally, I have lots of money IRL, so I don't need my Patreon subscription, and I don't need the money from Google. I mean, it's nice, sure, but I don't really need it, okay? Sometimes I even forget that I have it, because I'm doing very well on my own. And insofar as like the internet fame, I don't really care about it. The only thing I do care about is that, I want to get the silver play button, because I think it's cool having that tchotchke, okay? That's all I care about, and I'm going to get it for this channel. And thank you very much for subscribing. But the serious point. See, these people can only hurt you if you care about them. But if you look at them and point at them and understand who they are and realize how truly corrupt they all are, because their system of employment guarantees that the only ones who remain long-term are horrible, immoral people who do not care about the truth, who only care about propagandizing and lying. When you understand that, you realize how contemptible they really are. And you realize that they're not worth your time. That's why I haven't bothered to even name this guy, because this guy isn't even worth a name.